Today, we're here with Nate to talk about the future of the soccer card market. What's up, guys? We're back here, and we're here with Nate. And today we'll be talking about the soccer card market and the future and how that will develop. But before we get into that, we're here with Nate, and he's going to tell us about himself and how he got into collecting.
So, like a lot of other people, I started during the midst of COVID, and I was at home in that 2-week span in school, and I saw Card Collectors 2's video, and I got kind of inspired about like digging through the bargain bins and like kind of working your way up from $1 all the way up to like a few $100s, and that's when I went to my first show, and it was the Hofstra show, and I was just digging through bargain bins, and I kind of worked my way up. I spent $20 that show, then I sold everything on eBay for $100.
Nice.
And then after that, I was really into basketball and football, but like a lot of people during COVID, we had made some bad investments.
Zion hurt a lot of people.
Yeah, I bought a lot of Zion, Ja, and Donovan Mitchell base. It was all base prisms, and it just wasn't a great investment by me. But that was when I kind of like realized how to change, and like I started buying more rare stuff, like parallels, silvers, more graded stuff, and I tried grading myself as well. And that's when I really like started like making a decent amount of profit from the hobby a little bit, as well as collecting. I like to collect Kevin Durant, which is my favorite player, and I like to collect in football. I collected Tom Brady a little bit, Tom Brady and Kevin Durant, and when I started building myself up, I went to Dallas, and that's when I started getting into the soccer market. And that's kind of when I realized how like the soccer market's such an undervalued market, where you can get the best players for like the cheapest prices compared to like basketball, where like average players as much as like Lamine Yamal, and I just felt like it was a great opportunity for me to enter that soccer market.
And now you flip. Almost not full time, but you flip a good amount, and that's how you make your money, which a lot of people do, and very good. I also realized that about the soccer market. It was actually at the National for me when I realized, I was walking around and I saw the prices of some of these cards, and I was going there, and this was the time when Ellie De La Cruz, was for baseball was at like its peak, and I was going there and all the baseball hype was happening. And my cousin was with me, and he was always been whispering about soccer, because he's a big soccer guy and a collector too. He's always been whispering in the back of my ear about soccer and how that guy's gonna be really good, or this could be a good buy, or whatever. And it was there where I realized like, yeah, he's right. I'm looking at some of these prices. It's like, this event's coming up for soccer, or the World Cup could be coming soon, and that could be a good investment. And I would see these prices compared to some of these baseball, football, and basketball prices. I was just like, yeah, this is it. And that's how I realized that soccer, and that's when I bought my first Messi auto. But let's get into it with the future of the hobby. Who do we think will hold the most value? What do we think the market trends will do for soccer?
Okay, so in my opinion, personally, I think that a lot of players such as the GOATs of the hobby of soccer is like Messi, the Ronaldos, the Peles, even the Neymar, they will hold value the best just because the sheer people that collect Messi, Ronaldo, and Neymar and stuff like that, as well as collectible sets such as the 2016 Select of soccer, obviously Immaculate, all these Topps Chrome.
The early version, that's very popular.
All these, they're very rare to find and very hard to grade. So also I noticed how the different trends of tournaments that happen. So whenever there's a Euros, a World Cup, Champions League, Copa America, the card prices always seems to rise up, and then they seem to steadily trickle down after the tournament happens. But
yeah, I mean, I would say, as an investment standpoint, soccer could be one of the best investment standpoints. If you're looking for almost a good amount of surefire investment, because you could invest in like a superstar, say like a Messi, because let's say before he won the World Cup and then he won the Copa America right after, say people invested in him then, you could make a great amount of money. And we're seeing some players now that you're, with the World Cup leading up, where you can make a good amount of money from that also. And you see this trend, like you said, where it would go up for a big tournament, a big event, and then it will kind of trickle back down. When it trickles back down, that's a good time to invest in soccer players. And that's when people could reevaluate who's going to be the next big thing, who's going to be the next star, what team is going to be the best, because that also matters too.
Yeah.
We've seen, an example of last World Cup. Ronaldo's one of the best players ever, right? If not the best. And obviously his prices, are already kind of steady. But when we saw him in the World Cup, when I was following it, and he lost, I don't know how far. I don't think they made it that far.
Yeah, they did not.
But we saw his prices kind of come down from that, not just because the tournament was over, but because he lost. And I think that's what was hurting Messi and Ronaldo at that time, was they both never had a World Cup. Obviously Messi has one now, but when they lost, we saw a massive dip in Ronaldo. And just looking at, based on when Messi won, we haven't seen that come back to even. And in my opinion, I do think Messi is better than Ronaldo. And a lot of people agree, some people don't. We're not going to get into that today. That's not for it. But we've seen those prices kind of, equal out, where that's what the market's saying, is Messi is the number one in the soccer market, number one
by far
in general, by far. And he's coming here when usually it was Messi and Ronaldo just right here. But then after that World Cup, we kind of saw it there, and it's very steady at that point.
I feel like another example was in the Euros, like when Spain was playing, and Spain was kind of like the underdog. Everyone thought England or France was going to win. And in Spain, that was when the world saw Lamine Yamal and likeliness of Nico Williams, the other winger that no one knew about. And then he was balling out in the Euros. There's rumors of him going to Barcelona with Lamine Yamal. And those two players saw a shot up in price, like exponentially by a few hundred percentages, and it was great to see like a lot of young players making a name for themselves, and that reflected in the card market as well.
I mean, who didn't? If you watch soccer, who didn't see Lamine Yamal? He was the talk of everything. I mean, even me, who didn't know much before the tournament about him, I just heard, this kid's pretty good, whatever. And then he scores the goal against Mbappe, and had so many assists to Nico Williams. And it's like, now everyone's watching it live because it's such a nationally viewed tournament. And it's like, all right, now everyone's talking about him, and his prices are going through the roof. Crazy, he's gaining millions of followers on Instagram or TikTok, whatever. And he's becoming this world famous guy just because of this one tournament. And his prices went through the roof. And people are saying he's so young too. He's so young, and that's where you could see, his prices, you having a good investment point. You buy him at the right time, maybe after the Champions League, or even if people would say now too, where, you lead up to that World Cup, which could be the next question of, what will the market show for the World Cup? Because, that's the main goal, and it's coming to the U.S.
Yeah. Especially, I think that's a very key point, that the World Cup is coming to the U.S., Canada, and Mexico for 2026. And I think because it's coming to the U.S., a lot of soccer fans, and not even fans of soccer in general, but a lot of new collectors in the soccer community will grow in the U.S., particular in U.S. men's cards. And I think that became the topic of Christian Pulisic. And like his card prices when the last World Cup happened was going crazy. His kabooms, his autos, his rookies, and I just feel like it's going to be a similar trend now. He's still a very great player. He's the captain of the United States, and I feel like they have a lot of expectations put on them, especially because they're playing at home. They got a new coach, which is very famous, and a lot of players have been doing well in Italy and for their own clubs in general, and Christian Pulisic's like the center of that.
Yeah, I've told many people, and probably including you, that people have not a lot of knowledge about soccer, but want a nice investment. I've been telling them that if you don't really want to do the prospects of baseball or hope that a QB for football goes off this year, because that's very risky also. Unlike soccer, could be one of the best investments and solid investments you can have, because number one, not only are you it's not the fact that you're gonna bet them to win the World Cup. It's that it's coming here. that already brings hype. And I was thinking, when the World Cup, it's during the summer. Football hasn't started yet. Basketball is over. Baseball is in the middle of the season. Those are the middays where, it's starting to get tired, I mean, that is at the center of attention in the U.S. There's no huge sporting events really going on at that time. Yeah. Everyone's going to be watching the World Cup. And it's just going to grow so much. And that's what I've been telling people who don't know the soccer card market as good as me or you, is that if you're looking for an investment, you can't go wrong with soccer. Even if, we're counting on Messi and Ronaldo hopefully playing. Yeah. And I really want them to play because that means you get another select set of Panini and Topps cards because you get more World Cup cards of them. But, you just get them playing. Yeah. Everyone's going to want to see if Messi could do it again, or even because, Argentina is still as strong as ever, even if Messi's still getting old. And the question is going to be is, what's Ronaldo's legacy going to be with those two? Is he going to be, if this is his final World Cup, is he not ever going to win one? Is he finally going to get over the hump and win one? Those are the two big questions for them two. Right. But then you look at, like you were saying with Pulisic, it's like, you have the USA star, because everyone, if you don't know soccer that much and you're watching it, you root for USA. Or maybe where you're from, right? Yeah. You would root for USA also. What's the bigger star than Christian Pulisic, who is the captain of the USA team and is probably a star just in general. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing of all.
Yeah. I feel like it's not only Messi, Ronaldo, and Pulisic, but other players such as Neymar, who it's probably his last World Cup too, and he's been living in Messi and Ronaldo's shadow for years now. And although he tried to go to PSG to try to make his own legacy for himself, all the injuries and the memes and all those trolls of him flopping and stuff like that, and him go to Saudi Arabia to play, I feel like this is his last chance to really show the world I'm on the level of Messi and Ronaldo. Obviously, not to the extent of them, but in that caliber and hemisphere. And not only Christian Pulisic, but also Lamine Yamal, I'm sure, and Mbappe, a lot of players, a lot of people are putting a lot of big expectations of them as well, especially after Spain won the Euros. And Mbappe, he's been in the final the last 2 times in the World Cup. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And although he hasn't had a great season, he has a great season in Real Madrid, but people have kind of
it's not been the old Mbappe.
Yeah, it's not what they expect out of Mbappe. So I feel like this World Cup is opportunity to show I'm still the Mbappe I am.
Yeah, and like you said, there's so many questions with so many different players that they can make or break their career sometimes with this World Cup just coming up. Because, when we talk about soccer in the U.S., this could be a big expectation just stuck with people's mind because it's in the U.S. Yeah. And like you said, Mbappe, when he went to Real Madrid, he hasn't been the old Mbappe that we all know, right? He hasn't been the same. And people are questioning, his mark has came down. His mark, since he went to Real Madrid and hasn't been playing well, and the beginning he had a lot of hiccups there, whatever. People were questioning the card market definitely came down on all this stuff. So it's can he get back to the championship? Can he win again? Is he going to be the old Mbappe? Because people, right when he went to Real Madrid, people said that loss when he scored the hat-trick really took a toll on him. Yeah. Because he lost that. I know he lost the Euros. I think he lost something else.
He was in the midst of transferring from PSG to Real Madrid. I'm sure a lot of mental things were going on.
There was a lot of stuff, mentally. I mean, you score a hat-trick, you're, 23-ish years old? And you score a hat-trick and then you lose. It was very
He couldn't have done more.
He couldn't have done more. So people are questioning, is he going to get back to the old Mbappe? Because people were saying, he already had a World Cup at 22 whenever he won. Yeah. He looked like a superstar. People were starting to question, is he coming for Messi and Ronaldo? Obviously, he's kind of taking the toll off from there. Yeah. But it's people were looking at this this guy is going to be, top 3 of all time maybe if he continues. That's a big question for that too. Yamal, I mean, that's all eyes are going to be on him in Spain. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be unbelievable. Watching a 17-year-old or maybe 18 at the time play at the biggest stage against Messi, Ronaldo maybe. It's going to be unbelievable. Yeah. Now, one more question on the World Cup before we get off this. We'll give it both our opinions. Who do you think the number one player is for if any, because we've been talking about investing and a better chance. Who is the number one player that you would recommend or you are going to be investing for this World Cup coming up?
I think for me personally, the GOATs aside, the Neymars, the Messi, Ronaldo's aside, I'm personally investing in Lamine Yamal.
Yep.
I think you can't go wrong with Lamine Yamal, and not only him, but his counterpart in Spain, Pedri. Pedri has had a tremendous season, and he's been named like the best midfielder this year so far. And without him, Barcelona will not be functioning. So the easy answer is Lamine Yamal with how fantastic he is, but like a sleeper pick is Pedri, because not a lot of people know Pedri unless you're a Barcelona fan. Or if you're a fan of Man City or Real Madrid, not even Real Madrid, Arsenal, they're not gonna see the greatness of Pedri that he really is fantastic, just like Lamine Yamal. And with everyone watching him, I feel like Pedri's card prices will go a lot higher.
For me, I mean, I gotta agree. I'll give you a different one just because you said Yamal, but I agree with Yamal. I'm going to be investing in him because also one point that even if he doesn't do as well, he's still 18 years old. Yeah. He still has another 15 years in his career. Yeah. He's playing another 3-4 more World Cups. Yeah. He still could win a World Cup. He's 18 years old. Yeah. That's my only thing on why he's also such a great investment. Because even if he doesn't win, he's showing signs right now that he is probably one of the best players in football right now. Yeah. And he's 18 years old. Not only does this World Cup matter, but he has 3-4 more World Cups that he can play. We said Pulisic. I do think that Pulisic is such a good investment just because the hype around the USA team. Yeah. He's the captain, and his stuff isn't as expensive. You could buy his RPAs for not much. His kabooms are going to be big. I would, if you were to invest in him and have some money, I would buy a case hit, a nice high case hit of, like a kaboom. They don't have downtown.
They have stained glasses.
Yeah, they have stained glass.
Yeah.
They have those, what are they? It's like the downtown, but the soccer one.
The mangas.
They have that, yeah. So they have like the color wheels. They have all that. So I would invest in something like that, like a big case hit or rookie auto, something like that. Sleeper could be Vinny. His stuff is low. Some people don't like him.
I think that's exactly why his card price is low.
Like
He's not a likable guy.
They are not a likable guy, but you see you see Brazil making a run. I mean, they have the talent.
Yeah.
Rafinha, Vinny, they have Neymar. I mean, they have
Rodrigo.
the talent. Yeah. They can make a run like anyone else, and his prices could go up. Neymar's prices go up. So there's many investment players that we can have.
Yeah.
Next question. So the way we see Topps and Panini, we've seen an increase in product, in soccer, and that has led to an increase in, fans and collectors in the soccer market. How do we see that going into the future?
I think soccer does a very good job in not overproducing, yet they still overproduce, but not as much as baseball, basketball, and football. Like, you could see basketball and football, they have like some crazy, like the Mercury products.
Yeah. We've talked about that before here. Yeah.
Like other products that we've never seen before. But I think soccer's doing a pretty good job in keeping the Topps Chrome, the Selects, the Immaculate. Those are the three main sets, and I think soccer collectors are mainly focusing on those three. But as the future continues, I see the soccer market kind of, especially with the new takeover, them printing more cards, and they're gonna print new sets, new brands, just like Mercury.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will start to maybe like shift and invest in different sets. But I think as an investor, as someone that collects, I think you can never go wrong with the core three, like the Immaculate. I know that's a more pricier brand, but the Selects, the Topps Chrome, like you could never go wrong with those two.
I do think that this year and last year and, the way we're going on, I think Panini and Topps, they've been in a battle with the lawsuit, but they've hit soccer right on the dot. Topps comes in and they do the Euros, which I love. They did the Copa America, and they do the members only. Higher end product, but still a really nice product. And they have Topps Chrome, which is a huge hit.
Yeah.
And then Panini has, Panini always does the World Cup, which the World
Prisms.
Cup stuff. So they have the Prism, they have Obsidian, They have the Donruss, which talk about the new Kabooms.
Yeah.
I love the new Kabooms. I love, for people who don't know, last year's Kabooms were not the full colored background. Like if you pull a gold or you pull a 101 in like football or Kabooms, you'll see the full gold background or the full for the 101s or the green backgrounds for football.
Yeah.
For soccer last year they changed it where it would say the word Kaboom and then they'll have another word that said Kaboom on it and it would just be written in gold. And that's the way of showing you got a gold Kaboom. Or it would be
it was like
green.
The Kaboom would have the Kaboom was gold.
Yeah.
And that was for the past, but 2024, 2025, it's the first year since 2017 actually, or 2019, fact check me if I'm wrong. It's been like 5 years since they released a full gold or full black or full green background for Kabooms, and I love that for Donruss.
I love it. I think that is the perfect step in in making these cars worth more, is getting rid of what people did not like. Unfortunately, Yamal's Kaboom rookie card was, that year where it was the two Kaboom words, but also they changed this for the first time in a long time we've seen this. They added the 101 background, it's black.
Yeah.
For football, it's green. They have the 101 green Kaboom. This one is black, which I love way better.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, imagine, seeing the 101 Messi Kaboom in a black background.
That's insane.
That's insane. I think they really went in the right direction with just that. But like all their products this year have been almost out of the ballpark. Obsidian, it's pricier, but if you go to buy Yamal or other products,
you have a chance at
other
Color
cards,
Blast.
Other cards from there, you see amazing product out of Obsidian.
Yeah.
Even the Euros, I mean, it wasn't an expensive box.
Yeah.
But you saw some really cool hits. Topps got Ronaldo to sign out of there.
Yeah.
So that increased the value out of there.
Yeah.
So it's like they're doing everything right. Now you bring up the concern, like they've seen it boom so much. How are they gonna, with the World Cup coming, what's gonna be what's the product gonna look like?
I think what they're doing currently is very good for the market, especially with the new sets. Like you said, I forgot the Obsidians, the Donrusses. All those are fantastic sets with the selects, and I think they're headed in the right direction. It's just, let's hope that they don't overblow it out of proportion.
Now I'm curious, obviously you don't have the Yamal rookie that they had in last year's sets, where all the sets, everyone was chasing Yamal. This year, I mean, if you still have Endrick in there, I want to see how the market does in some of those products where there's not a huge rookie. Do they put Messi in there somehow, throwback cards, where everyone would want to chase that? Because for the World Cup, they go all out. Panini goes all out. They have those select cards, World Cup set, that's very valuable and very cool to collectors. Topps always does a set. But we've seen with wax, with soccer, you can't go wrong with like sealed wax or like the cards, like the Topps Chrome cards from 2016, 2017, 2018. Those have been some of the rarest and some of the most expensive cards I've seen. Even if the autos are sticker and stuff, people don't care. Those are like Messi Prime, those are Ronaldo Prime. Those are like some of the best cards you're gonna find. Yeah. Like that were from back then. That people love it and they go crazy over that. And me personally too.
Yeah. I really love, like, especially like now that you're mentioning the older sets. I love 2016 Select Soccer when Neymar was still on Barcelona, Messi was still in Barcelona, and Ronaldo, he wasn't in Juventus anymore. He was still with Real Madrid, and they did a very great job with that. They didn't overprint. It was very low numbered stuff. And not only that, but it was Christian Pulisic's rookie year. And that product is extremely hard to gem.
And to find a lot of times. I mean, people, that's what I've been seeing with the market, is that, when I buy Messi, because I buy Messi a lot, I've seen you too, I'm buying it to keep also. I'm not buying it to flip. And I know we've been talking about flipping a lot, but Messi long term, to the moon. He's going to be long term. He's the GOAT, in my opinion. He's the best, and his prices are never going to go down. They're only going to exceed, once he retires. That's why it's like you see these cards, and you see people post these cards on Instagram, and it's like, PC card. You're never going to get a chance to buy it, And it's like, damn, that's like the nicest card, and this guy's going to have it in his PC. He got it, but, it's like, man, people are locking these cards up. So that's why, like, when you see some of these old cards.
You just gotta pick it up.
You gotta get on it.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, and you know, this is what I love, you know, about the soccer market is, you know, now at the National, which this would be your first time if you go this year.
Yeah.
I've seen last year was they started a soccer trade night, which was amazing. Because in 2022 they had the normal trade nights, but they didn't have. You know, I was still looking for soccer, but it was like, you know, select dealers that had it. And, you know, I saw a video, you know, as I was leaving the National of, you know, a guy talking about, you know, how he's a big-time soccer collector and, you know, there's not, they can't get tables, you know, because the National, you know, gives it to their select, you know, the dealers that's always been going, and then it's like a lottery, they pick. So it's impossible for all these soccer dealers to get tables, yet not as much soccer cards you see there. Now they started the SoCo Expo, you know, the soccer show, which I went there last year. It is amazing. You generally have 200 tables of high-end soccer and low-end of amazing product. And it's just the amount of crazy cards you see there and the community and all the people there, it was just amazing. And they're doing it again this year, and I think that's
I heard they're even making it even bigger because as someone who's involved in the soccer community a lot on Instagram and stuff like that, everyone's just blowing up the SoCo Expo. Everyone's like, it's better than the National if you're a true soccer collector, and even if you're just getting into soccer, the experience that you get out of it is, if not equal to the National or exceeds the National. And I think it just gives collectors an opportunity not to be so crowded up against each other and to just have fun with it. And I think they even started doing soccer games. Yeah,
they implemented it this year. Like if you're a soccer fan, you go. You're gonna go have a free kick challenge to go win a box of Topps Chrome or like, you know, I'm just making that word up. But like, they're having all these competitions. That's amazing.
It's like the fan fest of soccer.
It's a select amount of people who all love collecting soccer, and it's after the show, so you're not missing anything. You go to the normal show if you're not pleased with what soccer cards are there. You go to the SoCo Expo, it's right after. And it's like a mini trade night. I found the best deals there, soccer. I thought it was good. Last thing, let's go with, you know, we've talked about it a bit, the GOATs and their market. You know, Messi and Ronaldo, how do they compare to like Pele, Maradona, Zidane, all those other second tier GOATs? How are we seeing this, you know, in the future and even now?
I think for Maradona and Pele, I've seen a slight increase in their prices, especially Pele. Pele has a strong community who collects their cards. Like recently, I was trying to pick up one of his autos, and they were trying to sell it for $2,500. And if you're in soccer, that's like $10K in like football and basketball.
Yeah.
So that's like a pretty crazy price, and that's even more expensive than Messi's auto. And for the second tier goes like the Maradonas, the Zidanes, the Peles. I think their cards are also going to continue to rise in price, especially Pele and Maradona. Not so much of Zidane, just because he's not as collectible as Maradona and Pele is. Like, they weren't as transformative, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's when it starts to trickle down to like third tier, where the Zidanes, the Ronaldinhos, the Ronaldo, Nazario, and the Neymars, they will also see a slight increase, but they will I don't think they will increase as much as like the true GOATs, like the Messis and Ronaldos.
I think you said it right on. I do think, you know, like we've been saying, Messi and Ronaldo are right there when it comes to, you know, soccer card value. I have seen them go on like their own separate mountain compared to all the other ones. Like you have them and then their secondhand GOATs and then like everyone else. But like, you know, you see like the Peles and stuff. When you find a rare Pele, rare Maradona from like all these crazy sets, you know, it's so hard to find, and it's pretty penny there. So that's why, I mean, when we talk about value long time, I do think that those GOATs will increase slowly. But I do think that Messi and Ronaldo altogether, you know, and even just Messi alone, we've seen him kind of prices wise just be the top guy. And that's where everyone wants. Now I don't know how. Maybe just taking a guess on how some of these modern day players, like how will Mbappe's prices be? How will Haaland's prices be in like 7 years. We haven't even talked about him.
Or Jude.
He was one of the best players like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, and I think he fell off this year. Or is that having a down year? I don't know. But people don't even mention him anymore in the card market.
Yeah.
I remember I seen a Messi, Ronaldo, and Haaland triple auto. It was a 1-1. I've seen it. Sold 3 times. It sold the first time for like 126K. I don't know if it was graded. It was a 10. It was graded. It was either a 9 or a 10. It was sold for like 126K. It was like a lot. Recently, it sold. It went out for auction. And it sold for only 46K. I think. I'm around those numbers. I don't know if I'm exact. And then it was sold again, and then it sold for like 42K.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I was like, is that because Haaland's on that card? Because at the time when they made it, Haaland was like a star.
Amazing, yeah.
He was amazing, popping off. Is that because Haaland's on that card, or was it because Ronaldo didn't do as well in the World Cup? I don't know, but it was like that card came down, and I'm like, that's a big dip to go from like 120 to like 40, 50K.
Yeah.
It was like his stuff has came down a bit based on performance. So it's like you ask the question on what will their markets be in the future?
I mean, not even Haaland, but even Jude Bellingham. He was having a crazy first season with Real Madrid a year ago, and he was breaking records. He was the next Zidane, and this year he's having a great year, but it wasn't as good as his first year. And you could see his card prices like go down, just like Haaland. And it's not like Haaland's having a bad year either. He has like 20, 30 goals, but it's not his 50 goals just like the seasons prior. And I think based on performance, those cards, it's very inconsistent. Whether they have a good night, their card prices could shoot up. If they have a bad night, bad season, the card price will obviously go down. And there's no consistency there. But I think with the GOATs, it's a steady increase, especially with the World Cup coming around. Like, we can't go wrong.
Yeah, definitely. So that will conclude our video here. We hope you guys enjoyed our opinion and our talk about the soccer card market and the future of it. And we hope to catch you guys in the next one. See you.